Hi, I'm Don Chapman here at Falkirk. I've been a master gardener for about 12 years, and I've also been a member of the Marin Rose Society for about 16 years. Today I'd like to talk to you about winter pruning of roses. We've found fossils of roses in North America that date back 300 million years. So it appears that roses have survived a long time without human intervention. So why do we prune? Well, we prune in order to shape the plant, get any dead wood or diseased pieces out of it, make sure that we have vigorous canes that are going to produce a lot of roses. I'd like to demonstrate some of the tools that are important. The most basic one is the bypass pruners. They give a cleaner cut, but the anvil tends to squeeze them. The other essential tool, I think, is a good saw. This will save you a lot of time. When you start cutting larger pieces, it'll save your hand. You need a good pair of gloves. I like the shorter gloves rather than this. A lot of people like this because it saves their forearms. Another essential piece of this is a good lopper, because you can get in and trim out some of the larger pieces and you don't have to put your hand in. You'll need a rake, because one of the things you're going to have, what you should do after you pruned, is clean up around the rose bushes. These ratchet pruners are really effective. They allow you to cut very large pieces with ease, and tines about that big without any effort at all. This is something that it's used for when you're doing miniatures or you're doing shrubs. You can just, if you don't, it can take a lot of time to do shrubs if you do them with just the hand pruners. But if you do this and you just cut through them in a few minutes instead of half an hour to an hour. I recommend sharpening your hand pruners probably every 3 or 4 rose bushes, depending on the size, obviously. But what you should do is get an angle of 28 degrees, and you can just run it through all at one time like that, so you get a nice smooth cut on it. And when you're done, turn it over and do one at the back just to make it any burrs off of it. This particular rose is a hybrid tea. It's a modern rose. Its characteristic is that it usually has only one bloom on a very long stem, and they're one of the most popular roses in the United States. We're going to take the rose bush down to about 30 inches from the ground, and that will then allow us to get a good view of what the plant is going to look like when I'm done. What I want to end up with is strong canes that are green and that have no disease in the center of it, which you can see at this. I'm going to remove all the twigs on here that are smaller than a pencil. And if you need the guidance on it, you can look at it and say everything that's smaller than these pencils should be removed. Roses only are going to grow on the new growth that comes out of what we've trimmed back here. Because you can see from these other roses, the part that we left last year, there are no roses up there. They're all on the new growth. That's why we trim them back. If we didn't, it would get higher and higher and less roses. We get rid of all the small stuff that just becomes leaf producers and don't support blooming. So here's an eye bud that's going to be a branch. And so we're going to make sure our cut is at a 45-degree angle about 1/4 of an inch from the eye bud. The angle cut, some people think that it is very important because it allows the sap to run, and it also allows water to run off. And you want to make it at least 1/4 inch or 1/4 of an inch above the eye bud when you make a cut. This is a floribunda, it's an iceberg, and we're going to show you some of the growth that's on this that needs to come back. You can see how this rose has been trimmed, pruned here, it's been pruned here, it was pruned last year, and this is this year's growth off of this. Very few blooms coming off of this, because anything that grows off of this is going to be smaller than this, and we're not going to get the big roses that we're going to do. So we're going to come in, take this one down. We're going to take some of this old stuff off and bring it back down to some shorter canes. Okay, we've removed this, what I call a rack of branches off of a very old cane. And what I want to do is eliminate all of these hodgepodge of limbs, because what happens is each limb produces this limb, then this shoot comes off, it's smaller than this one. And then what comes off of this is going to be smaller than this. You start getting things like this coming off. And what you get is a lot of leaf and very little blooms, because these ones that are coming off of this are going to be so small that they won't produce flowers. So we just remove that. We encourage the old cane to put out new shoots. We're expecting new canes to come out on all of these older limbs here, and there's a possibility that we could actually get new growth from the union bud. We only want about 5 or so strong canes, so we're trying to we got one coming up here. I want to keep that one. We've got a new growth here and there, so we've got some old growth. If these don't make it, then we've got some strong canes that are going to come back anyway. This is a good one. This is a young one too. I would be surprised if we don't see a lot of new growth off of both of these. The way this thing is a very prolific grower, we should have canes that are up this high off of these by June. The rose we have here is a 4th of July. It's a large climber, and it's on its own root. It's cutting from another 4th of July rose. And it's in its 2nd year here, and we're going to prune it for the first time. You shouldn't prune it until after 2 years. That gives the rose time enough to put out these long shoots, and then you can start training them back to get this fan shape. And the reason you want this fan shape is because when you stretch it out like this, it will put up branches that come out all along that branch. If you don't do that, like this one's been left like it is, it just grows up, and only blooms you're going to have are at the very tip. That's what they do. And if you leave them all going straight up, all you'd have is blooms at the tip of the plant. On this unilateral, we want to take it down. We want to take it down right above that eye bud, the last one that's there. Then you will get new shoots coming off of this one, and that will fill in all along here. You want to take that one out because it's going to be facing outward. And you'll take this one off because it's facing outward. You'll cut that end one off because you don't want it there. Go down to this eye bud right here, cut it off. Take that one down to there, and that one down to there. And this one off because it's pointed out. I'm going to take that one down to just above that eye bud. Take that off. Take those off.
I'm going to leave that one. That one's dead, so we'll take that off. And that's shooting outwards. That was there. Now, the thing we're looking at here is this doesn't have a home. It's just going to go up. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and cut it off. What we're going to end up with is 1, 2. We should take one of these off. It saves that. This one I have to take off. I'll take that. I don't want that going in that direction. Take that one off. This one is going to cantilever out, and then we take it off. Okay, we pruned this large climber, 4th of July, and we spread out fanned out all the branches that we've got strong canes on, and we should get a lot of lateral growth off of each one of those canes that will then fill in, and we'll have the optimum amount of roses coming in May. I like to do my rose pruning in 2 stages. I like to come do the initial pruning where I bring them all down to the level I want. I let some time pass. I wait about a week. I come back in the garden and do some fine tuning. It is a perspective that you get when you're looking at the totality of the garden as opposed to the individual rose bush when you're pruning for the first time.